If you're like most people, you've probably wondered if there's life after death. Is this the only life you'll ever have? Or when you die, will you continue to live? Will you come back to life? To me, it seems unlikely, if not impossible, that life will go on after we die. As far as I'm concerned, when you're dead, you're dead. Now, of course, I could be wrong about that. But whether I'm right or wrong, this is the only life that you can be sure of. From the beginning of time, if there is such a thing, until a few decades ago, you did not exist. In a few more decades, you will once again cease to exist. So we can say that from the beginning of time until the end of time, non-existence is your natural state, except for this one brief interruption. Your life is a brief interruption to your natural state of non-existence. I find it useful to think of life as being like a vacation in a foreign land. It's an opportunity to learn the language, to examine the culture, to learn to dance, to experience the music, to sample the food, to get drunk occasionally, to fall in love, to learn about the universe and the various life forms, to read, to go sightseeing, to marvel at the latest technologies, to meet and learn about other people, to learn new skills, to understand and appreciate mathematics and the sciences, etc., etc. While we're here, we not only have the opportunity to enjoy ourselves, but we can also take the opportunity and the responsibility to share what we have learned and to do what we can for the welfare of our fellow vacationers. The question is, how are you going to spend your vacation? Now, to me, the ideal is to spend my time in pursuit of an ethical, rewarding and joyous life. I want to be guided by compassion and reason, without recourse to the supernatural. I want to spend some time looking at this idea of a joyous life. What does that mean, and how do we achieve it? Take a look at this chart. Now imagine that you have a choice. Where would you rather spend most of your time? In the red, happy zone, or in the blue, unhappy zone? If you're like most people, I'm sure that you'd prefer to spend as much time as possible feeling happy. Whether we're by ourselves, with others, at work or school, or participating in recreational activities, we humans usually prefer to be happy, to live in the red zone. Most of us prefer to be happy, but life is full of hassles. We often run into problems. Financial problems, health problems, relationship problems, problems at work and problems at home. When we encounter these problems, it's natural for us to slide down the happiness scale into the blue, unhappy zone. The blue zone can be experienced in a variety of different flavours. For example, anger, hurt, depression, anxiety, shame, annoyance, regret, disappointment, etc. A temporary slide into the blue zone has some advantages, as it serves as a warning to us that we're not meeting our goals and that we may need to make some changes in our lives. An example might help to make this clearer. Imagine that you feel moderately happy during the morning, but in the afternoon you have a fierce argument with a close friend. Assuming that you don't enjoy conflict, it would be natural for you to feel unhappy about the feud and for your happiness level to drop. To slide into the blue zone tells you that your relationship with your friend needs some work if it is to survive, and that if you are to avoid further conflict with her. So the drop into the blue zone helps you in some way. However, when you drop into the blue unhappiness zone, two questions arise. The first is, how low do you want to go? And the second one is, how long do you want to spend in the blue zone? If your goal is to be happy, then a reasonable answer to the first question is, I don't want to go any lower than -1 or perhaps -2. And a reasonable answer to the second question is, I want to get out of the blue zone as quickly as possible. There's no advantage to you by dropping down to -4 or dwelling in the blue zone for days. For many people, it's not uncommon, once they slip into the blue zone, for them to sink lower and lower, and for them to remain unhappy for hours, days, weeks, or even decades. Their goal of remaining happy most of the time seems to them like an impossible dream. It doesn't have to be this way. Once you find yourself slipping into the blue zone, you can immediately stop the slide and bounce back into the red happiness zone. And if possible and appropriate, make changes in your life. The question is, how? And the answer is REBT. Additionally, once you return to the red zone, you can use REBT to lift your happiness level even higher. And that gets us back to here. REBT helps us to live a joyous life. It's a system that is guided by compassion and reason. It's well worth the time to find out more about REBT. I'm Will Ross, and I'll talk with you again soon.